actually wrong with the job market right now.
There's one piece of advice that I can offer to you. It's that take that internship you take in college fucking seriously.
No, I will hire. It's the one person that comes in the building every day wondering why they haven't got a call.
Like, people at career fairs aren't actually hiring. They just want to have resumes.
One of the biggest complaints I hear about from people in my generation is that they can't find a job. Well,
please stop. You should not be allowing people to apply when you're not even hiring.
I've applied to 500 jobs this month. I haven't got a single interview.
So I have noticed that anytime I go anywhere these days, everywhere I go, they are so obviously abhorrently understaffed.
Nobody wants to work anymore. You're so entitled. Nobody wants to work.
You're probably being told too, you're over experienced.
In today's episode, we're going to once again discuss the employment situation in the United States. Now, I believe the situation is much worse than what people are saying, much worse than what the government statistics are showing, primarily because it is a much different economy today than it was about 20 or 30 years ago. Today, you have many people working side hustles, second jobs, driving Uber on the weekends, doing things like that, trying to make a little bit of extra cash, because even if they do have a full-time job, it's just not enough to pay the bills. We have an affordability crisis in this country. That said, this video is going to focus really on the application process. I've done a number of these videos. It's truly a mess. I feel bad for anyone in the job market just because of the sheer number of applications that are going into these jobs, these AI systems and software that just spit out thousands of resumes or apply to thousands of jobs. And so it's really just a mess. It's just kind of like a numbers game where you're just applying to anything, even if it's not even like a good fit. A lot of people are doing this. That said, it's definitely not the job applicant's fault. It's just kind of how the system, I think, is now at this point. Anyhow, let's go ahead. Let's look at some different clips, some different types of things in the US job market.
Actually wrong with the job market right now. I literally spent over 4 years getting my bachelor's degree in communications. I'm on my way to get my master's because everybody told me that that was going to help me get a job, but I can't even get a job as a cashier at McDonald's. I was promised a better job once I got out of university, and yet I still haven't found one. So who's lying to me? The school system, the government, or my parents? I swear every old person I see tells me to get a higher education because I'll get a better job, a fancy paying job, whatever. But little do they know they literally ruined the economy for us because I cannot find a job. If I didn't use dumb, stupid side hustles to actually pay my bills, I would be living in a ditch right now. I was able to pull roughly $1,200 from the Juul, the vape class action lawsuit on the claimmoney.com website. That's the only.
Okay, so this woman said one thing that really stood out to me. She went to college, she did everything right, was expecting a job when she graduated. Seems like she has a decent enough personality, right? And, it's not there. We've seen this story again and again. Now, this is nothing new, to be fair, because I remember I graduated about 25 years ago or so from college. Lots of people I knew could not find jobs right after the dot-com bust. I mean, the economy wasn't in, I think, a huge recession, but it definitely was not booming. So I don't think this is anything new, but I do think what's scary now for a lot of people is if you have an 18, 19-year-old and they're going to college, what are you supposed to tell them to study right now with what's going on with artificial intelligence? It used to be the case you could say, hey, do software engineering, do some sort of hard science. When you get out, you'll be okay. But that's not the case anymore. We're seeing a lot of companies have stopped hiring software engineers, positions like that, engineering positions, even like accounting and those types of positions are at risk with artificial intelligence. I'm not saying that artificial intelligence can do the job better. I'm just saying a lot of these higher ups are putting the brakes, hitting the brakes on hiring a lot of jobs that traditionally used to be very safe. You get an accounting degree. It used to be you come out, you could work at a Big Four firm or something like that, as long as you went to a decent school and got good grades. Doesn't seem like it is the case with a lot of stuff like that now. And people are just these young kids are just trying to figure it out. Let's go ahead and let's look at another clip.
Sucks about getting a job, but one thing, I hire people. I know what it is to be hired and to hire. A lot of people today think that they just have to put in an application, which theoretically you think that's how it should go. If you need help, I just applied. What's the problem? Sometimes there's up to 100 applicants you have to go through. But the one person I know I will hire is the one person that comes in the building every day wondering why they haven't got a call. The person that comes in person with their resume, puts it in my face and says, I expect you to do something with this. You know what I mean? Like, that continued effort, dude, you're going to get hired. I don't know anybody who hires for a living that wouldn't say, hey, this person's been up here every single day. They didn't just put in an application online and just wait back and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, you say that you went to Walmart and nobody's hired you, maybe. How many times have you went up there in person and been like, help?
I do agree with this guy here. When you are applying, you do have to be thinking outside the box. You've got to be trying to get some FaceTime with the hiring manager or maybe the human resource person. Most people are going to be pretty polite as long as you're not, getting their personal number or something and calling them, off business hours or something like that. Doing anything inappropriate, obviously. Don't show up at their house or anything sketchy or scary like that. But I think most managers are going to appreciate a person who goes and does something a little bit extra in terms of trying to get a job, especially if it's just like a job at Walmart or a fast food job or something like that. It's, it's not the case. Maybe you just put in an application and you're good, you're solid. It's got to be the case where you got to have to make that personal connection. And the tougher the job is, the higher it pays in general. You've got to really work harder to get some sort of connection. It's not easy. No one said it's easy, but I agree with this guy. That's kind of what you have to do this day and age.
Advice that I can offer to you, it's that take that internship you take in college fucking seriously. People nowadays will not hire you unless you're actively enrolled in college. I have a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of the Arts, and a triple major with a minor, and no one gives a shit. No one gives a fuck. No one cares. You want to know why? Because I'm 26 and I didn't get a job out of college off the bat in my field, so now it's null and void. And I know what you're thinking that is obviously not true because you put in 4 hard years work of college to get a degree, and obviously your degree should mean something. No, it means jack fucking shit. No one cares and no one wants to hire me because I'm not actively enrolled in school. So I took it upon myself to go back to school. I am 26. I am turning 27 in July, and I have only worked fast food and restaurant jobs for the last 10 years because that's all I was able to get hired within a decent pay range. And I, unfortunately, took jobs for the paycheck too early on in my career, and now I'm stuck in food service, and I'm trying to get out.
Your generations are just so lazy. Nobody wants to work anymore. You're so entitled. Nobody wants to work. Like, no, Margaret, nobody wants to go work these fuck-ass jobs for the fuck-ass pay that we're getting in return these days. I don't know, man. Is it really that hard of a concept to grasp for all the older generations? Especially, the boomers who went and fucked up our lives and made it impossible for us to get ahead financially, that we're ready to work. We're down to work hard, okay? But you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to overwork ourselves to death for like fucking $14 an hour. Especially because a majority of these jobs, especially since COVID, in order to maximize profits, they've been reducing the amount of workforce that every single one of these companies needs. So the people that they do hire, one person ends up doing the work that like 3 people should be doing, but they're not being paid for 3 people. They're still expected to do the work of 3 or 4 people, but only get paid $12 to $14 an hour. Yeah, that bullshit ain't happening anymore. In case you want to know how absolutely fucked this is, we're going to do a little bit of math, okay? If you are lucky enough to work a job that pays you $20 an hour, okay? That's 20. All right. Remember back in the day when everybody was like, oh my God, like, could you imagine if we could work for $15 an hour? That would be so much helpful. So this is going to be based on $20 an hour. And if you were lucky enough that $20 an hour job pays you full-time hours, meaning 80 hours a paycheck, your monthly net after taxes is roughly anywhere between $2,600 to $2,750 a month, okay? You got places out here charging $2,000 for rent. Explain to me how that's supposed to work when the federal fucking minimum wage is still technically $7.20.
I read a really interesting tweet or post on X the other day, and it was about a guy talking about Sears. And the guy worked at Sears in the early 90s, and he was talking about the different people who worked there. You know, these are retail jobs, remember, and how everyone who worked there had lives outside of work. There was a guy who every year, I think, you know, he traveled cross country with his family. There was another person who, you know, was able to, I think she was just like I don't remember what she did specifically, but she had a home, a car, a family, things like that. But the point of the post was really just kind of looking back and saying, you know, we were just average people. We had regular jobs, but we were able to afford these things, a home, retire at a decent age, take vacations every year. There were bonuses, and that's just not the case. Now, Sears used to be absolutely massive in the United States. It used to have something like 300,000 employees at its peak. So definitely they were not hurting in terms of profits if you have an employment base that big. But it goes to show you it's just not the case anymore. You can't go get a job at the Gap and work retail and afford a home and raise a family. It's just not the situation. And I think that's one thing that the boomers fail to understand. Now, a lot of them are going to come back and say that people of this generation or very young generations are lazy, and I don't entirely agree with that. I do think there's definitely some lazy people in there, but I think the situation's different. Pretty much the essentials are very unattainable for many people who are younger, and you know, things like food, rent, utilities, all that sort of stuff, childcare, you just can't get away from those costs, and that's why so many people are falling behind.
You've got to make a pivot. Take your expertise, take your skill level, build something yourself. The job market isn't going to bounce back. It's actually being rewritten. If you're sending out hundreds of applications with no replies, just silence, and your anxiety's high right now, I understand. Your anxiety is probably driving you, or your fear is driving you to keep doing what you've always done, to keep pushing on the same doors you've always pushed on. Look for a job with the same title in the same industry that you just came out of while you wait for some sense of normalcy and certainty to return. But we aren't where things used to be. And that door will probably not open again. And it's not because of your lack of skills or experience. You're probably being told too, you're over-experienced. That's just because the structure of work is changing.
A trend with corporate companies that I need somebody to answer, or I need opinions. It's something I've just noticed, a little trend, if you will. So I have noticed that anytime I go anywhere these days, everywhere I go, they are so obviously abhorrently understaffed. So badly understaffed. Like, I went to a chain restaurant today, and everybody in there was running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And there were so many people, it was like rush. And I understand like things are going to get busy during rush, but like it was bad. There were so many things that were just not actively being taken care of because they did not have the manpower to handle everything all at once. And then I thought about it, and I feel like no matter what time of day it is or what day it is, that is the experience I have anytime I go to a restaurant chain. Also, I went to the Dollar Tree recently, and I remember as a kid, like, you know, Dollar Tree has like typically 5 checkouts. And there's just one girl ringing everybody up.
I've applied to 500 jobs this month. I haven't got a single interview. How far back does your resume go? My whole career, back to 2001. Yikes. Does your resume have a professional summary? Yeah, it's great. I wrote it with ChatGPT. Oh boy. Did you keyword for ATS? What does that mean? When you apply to jobs, are you using the easy apply button? Oh yeah, it's a numbers game. It is really not. Have you been doing any networking? No, that wouldn't help me. It's all about who you know. What do you think networking does? Am I a lost cause? No, but By God, you need to check
I'll
out
give you
Greg
some
Lance.
brutally honest job interview advice as a full-time career coach who's helped hundreds of people do interview prep, and my personal specialty is taking people that have gotten to final rounds multiple times and finally getting them an offer. If you are in this position, I need you to know that it's not something you are messing up in that final round. If you are consistently looked over for the job offer, there is something deeper going on. You are not crushing those earlier rounds as much as you think you are. Because we think, okay, I progressed, that means I did well. And you did fine enough to progress, but it doesn't mean that you are the front runner. And in order to be the front runner throughout the process, I need you to crush your elevator pitch. If you don't know me yet, I talk about tell me about yourself so much because of this reason. If you haven't seen my breakdown on how to answer that question, you can comment interview and I will send it to you.
Okay, a couple comments on these clips here. Now, the last woman is talking about going through the interview process, not getting the final offer after multiple rounds. I do agree with her here. A lot of times, I think people do go through and, they think they're doing great, but the employer's thinking of it in terms of, well, I have to have 3 people go to the next round, and then the final round, it only has to be 2 or something. And so you might think you're doing great, but you may not actually be the strongest candidate. Of course, I do think what's going on right now with a lot of these employers, and this is a big deal, they're bringing in people are doing projects for the company for essentially free, and then they're not getting offered a job, things like that. That is absolutely ridiculous that stuff like that is happening. Now, one of the other clips in here is a guy coming out and kind of doing a skit around employing or applying to jobs. And of course, he does kind of make the point in there around that, having that personal touch, which I think you have to kind of have at this point, because it's just so many people are applying to so many jobs. There's fake jobs out there. There's these companies trying to just gather data from people. It's definitely a scary situation. There's been situations where people have thought they got a job, wired money to some sort of account, like for a laptop or something. And companies came out and said, hey, can you pay us X amount of dollars for, your laptop or for this or for that to travel? People have done it, and then they found out after the fact that they are still unemployed and they were scammed. So those scams are out there. Definitely be careful. Make sure the company is legit. I get not scams like that, but I definitely get scam emails a lot in my inbox. Always checking those out. Check that email address. Make sure it's somebody legit from the company. If you are applying for jobs and you do think, you think it's something good, make sure that it's an actual person, someone possibly with a LinkedIn profile, or they could probably fake that these days, right? But make sure it's just something legit coming from a company, email, things like that.
You find a job and make network connections as a younger person. One of the biggest complaints I hear about from people in my generation is that they can't find a job. Well, I'm gonna redirect you real quick. What you're gonna do is go to your local Chamber of Commerce website. And then you're gonna browse around and you're gonna find a community event to volunteer at. There also should be a calendar that you can sign up for to get notified about any other events happening around your community. You're going to sign up for any community event and show up to any other event that you find within this blog. And you're going to introduce yourself to people and make connections. And let's not be wrong, it's going to be hard at first, but once you get used to it and introduce yourself to a couple of people, you're going to feel right at home.
If you're a place that hires people and on your website you keep up applications all year round, even when you're not hiring, please stop. Please stop. You should not be allowing people to apply when you're not even hiring. You know how extremely difficult that makes it to find a job? You could be applying in all the wrong places. How do you know which job is actually hiring now? And a lot of these places will act like there's 100 people trying to get this one position. I'm sorry. Some random store that almost nobody knows about isn't gonna have several people ahead where there could be a better fit. If you're hiring, just start fucking hiring. Nobody should be denied 300 plus jobs. There's no reason.
Fair months ago, does anyone feel like people at career fairs aren't actually hiring? They just want to have resumes on tap in case someone quits?
Okay, let's talk about these last clips here and we'll wrap up. Okay, one of my favorite things, or I shouldn't say my favorite things, but one of the worst things that I've heard in my career applying for jobs has been the old, well, we'll keep your information on file just in case something comes up. I got to tell you, I've never heard of anyone keeping their information at a big Fortune 500 company, applying for one job, and then like 6 months later, some recruiter going in and pulling their resume out from the data bank and asking them for a job if they want to apply for this job, or offering them a job or something like that. That just doesn't happen. I've never heard of that, and I know a lot of people in the business world. Now, in terms of, if you want to get into, all right, it's a LinkedIn recruiter, you